All right, so that's a little bit about layers. I want to kind of make my way around the screen so you can kind of see the different palettes, the different options that are available to you. If they're already familiar to you, let me know. But here at first we have our move tool. This grabs any object. So in this case, I'm going to grab him. I have to click on the layer that I want to grab. But if I grab him, then it just allows me to move it, right? And that's all it does. So we can, in the layer palette, I can grab multiple layers by using the shift so shift will select the top and everything in between the bottom layer. So if I click on multiple layers and I use shift, I hold down shift and I click on the top, and then the bottom one, it will select everything in between them. Or I can use control, and control will just pick individual layers. Still multiple, but not in a sequence, if that makes sense, okay? And then if let's say I just want to move this, and, well, it doesn't really make sense to move these two, but if I just move them, you'll see that it moves those two together and keeps them together. I often, if I want to have subjects stay together, you can link them, which is, to me, a little tiresome. It's because you have to unlink them every time you want to work on them separately. But I found it easiest to just group them together. And to group them together, you take multiple objects like this, and just at the bottom there's this folder icon here, or in my case, Command G, and it just groups them together. Now it's a group within a group because I already had them in a group. But you can easily ungroup them. There's a keystroke. Group is Command or Control G, and ungroup is Command Shift G or Control Shift G, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. Right. All right. The next selection in general is what gives Photoshop its power. So it has dozens of ways to select anything, and I'm going to go over some of those today and some of those in our next course. But selection is the number one thing. It's how you isolate certain parts of your photo. And so one of those, of course, is just a standard square tool, right? If I want to select part of my picture. I will often use this if, for example, I want to, actually I'm going to delete some of my layers here just so that I can work on this without, okay. So if I wanted to make it smaller, I can draw a selection around what I want it to be. If I hold down Shift, you'll see that it moves at square aspect ratio. And from here, I can do a number of things, but I can crop it, right, to the size that I want to. This would take place in image crop right here. Also, if I just need to, when I'm working in my masks, sometimes I want to just get rid of everything that's in there, and I will use my selection tool to select everything on that canvas, and I will delete. You'll see how it just went straight black. I'll delete the effect, the mask that was over the effect. Or I can go the other direction and add it to the entire frame as well. That darkening effect, but of course I only want it on his tie. So we'll go through that more later. Now you can see how there's a little arrow under this tool here. Right? That just gives you more options. So if I hold down on that tool, it shows me, and there are other options as well. I have customized my toolbar so that all of the different selection options aren't there. These are the only two that I use for this type of selection. And then when we get here, we've got a lasso tool. There's also a straight lasso tool, but this basically allows you to freestyle draw and just select things in a freestyle way, right? Which with its cousin, let me find its cousin. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we are, the poly. This one allows you to do just straight clicks. Sometimes that's what you want, right? If you have a selection made, then everything that you do from that point is only going to happen within that selected area. To deselect, you would either come up here to Image, oh, what's the slow way of deselecting? It's going to be Command D or Control D. Maybe it's, sorry, I don't often do the menu up here. Layer? Well, we will be going through each of those, and I'll find it when I go through each of the menus so that I can help you understand what it is. All right, next, these are some of the AI tools that Photoshop is starting to use. Extremely useful. This is where AI is actually very sort of AI is not actually drawing from any library. It's not drawing from the internet. This is just a smart selection tool. Okay. On this selection tool, if I have him just like this and I bring over this option, it will identify my subject. And if I click on that subject, it's going to put a selection around where it thinks a good boundary is for that subject. And then I'm going to delete my mask. I can, of course, if I want to, I just applied the mask, sorry. Let's delete that mask. Okay, now I can either, in the old days we had to pop him onto a new layer, which was the old way of doing things, and then I could work on him. That's what we call a destructive way, because now it's destroyed. For this layer, I can never get that background back, right? It's always gone. The new way, of course, is to then use a mask, which you use this tool here. It's also in this floating toolbar that it's trying to anticipate what you need. In this scenario, you can see that it still takes him away, but the beauty of a mask, and we're going to go more into the details of this a little bit later, and it didn't get his tie. Let's go ahead and use one of our standard tools to. Now you see right here that I've got a black and white. Whatever's on the bottom here, if I delete, it's going over in my mask, it's going to turn it that color. So if I delete while white is on the bottom here, then it's going to add that, it's going to reveal that. White reveals, black conceals. Okay? So if I were to flip that, if I were to flip my color over here, so black is on the bottom, and I were to hit delete, now it's going to hide that portion of my photo. Now I can just see the things that are on top, but I can't see, right? I can't see that part of the photo. And so we'll go into more on masking, but masking is a very powerful way to make the edits to your photos. And once I get the photo the way that I like it, I will often convert it to a smart object so that it has a transparent background from that point forward, but it's in a smart way that it retains the original layers in a PSB file separate from this one. Okay. Smart objects, so we got that. Okay, we're gonna work our way down. Of the smart selection tools, you'll see here that there is also a magic wand tool, and there's actually one more. It is this guy. No, let's see. Oh, right here, the quick selection tool. I'll just show you how both of them work. On the quick selection tool, you start in an area and you start dragging and dropping, and it tries to anticipate based on natural color boundaries what you're trying to grab. Right? Now you can see here, it grabbed more than the tie. Use your shift to add more, or your option, which on a PC is Alt, to take away from. So now I can draw over this white area, and I'm telling it to not select that part. And in a smart way, it tries to keep up with you. Now, I have found this to be fine, but I've taken it off my main menu because this little guy right here does a better job. The object selection tool, it will do a better job of anticipating. You see here that it's identified the tie. If I just click on that, it's like, I think you're trying to grab the tie, right? So that's the AI part of things. And then I can apply this selection, as I've already done, to these masks above, which one controls the contrast. If I click on this, you can see here that I can fully control the light and dark contrast of that tie, and then the other one is my color so that I can change that color to be whatever I want it to be, and it applies it in the way that I want. Now, applying color to something like this, it's called a color overlay. We use what are called blend modes. And blend modes is something that you'll want to write down. Blend modes, there are a whole slew of blend modes. In the layers palette, they're found right here. Starting with normal, meaning you chose the color and it's just a flat version. As I go down, you will see different versions of, okay, so this one's making it dark. That's not very helpful. Let me actually take away my curves so that you can see some of these. All right, so darken and multiply. You see here that it takes the same color, but it applies it in a dark way. Color burn, linear burn. I'm gonna choose a lighter color so you can see some of these. We're gonna go something like this. All right, go up to the top. Okay, here we go. So you can see does a variety of different blends to it. Of these, I've found screen, overlay, multiply, hue, and color to be the most useful. So I'm going to go over that again. Of these, of the blend modes, I would start off with the preset. The most useful ones are multiply, screen, overlay, hue, and color. And there's minor differences between them, but you'll be able to visualize. And if none of them are working, then perhaps it's not a blend mode that you're looking to do. Or maybe the blend mode needs to be done in conjunction with another adjustment, like curves, for example. Okay? And you can stack these on top of each other. Now, if I'm not careful, my stacking will affect everything everything that lies below it in a layers palette, right? So without this mask on, it's going to make those changes to everything that's here. I don't actually have to mask. I can also do this feature here. If I hold down Alt or Option on a Mac, you see this arrow pop up in my layers palette, and this will make it apply only to the layer that's below it. But see, for me, I don't want to apply it to the man. I want to apply it only to his tie. As a selection tool, there's a myriad of ways to select what you're trying to select, right? So if the tie had specks of green on it, or it had some elements that you wanted to stay there, but you wanted to change the other aspects of the tie, there are different ways of selecting those. There's a color selection tool that allows you to just identify a color spectrum within a photo, and I can show you that. In fact, let me just show you right now. You see his hand here and his face are kind of an orangey color, right? As opposed to all of the blue and the pink and the white that we have here. If I were to come into this layer, I have to be selected on the right layer, but if I were to come in and say select color range, and I were to say I just want these, I want these warm tones. I'm holding down Shift. You can tell by the plus symbol that's below my eyedrop tool. If I come down here and I continue to select them, you see how his face is becoming visual in this, but it's not getting some of these darker tones. I'm going to get some of them. Now, if I'm not careful, some of them might be found in other places, but okay, so let's just take that, and this what I've done is not a perfect selection. There's a lot of ways to imperfectly select stuff, but let's say that that's what I'm trying to do. If I were to hit OK, it provides that selection around him, as you see here, and if I want that to be the focus of my, let's see here, I'm going to need to do it with another, oops, come on, mask on top of a mask, it's not doing it. All right, we'll do it with another solid color layer down here. And let's make him a green person, right? And then if I apply my hue or color, you'll see that it's just applying it to the color range that I grabbed. Now, obviously, that isn't terribly useful, meaning unless you're trying to make everybody green, right? But when it comes to little details, sometimes there's a bright orange on the tie, and you can select the tie and then go in there and just select the bright orange elements and put them on a separate layer, or put the changes that you're making on a separate layer that only affect those orange specks. The pen tool will allow me at any time to, I'm going to select a color first. Okay, I've got a color here, and I can come, I'm going to hide this so that I must be, I have, this usually means that there's a menu open somewhere that it's not allowing me to escape. Let's see. Yeah, there's a pop-up that it's not this one. All right, well, that's always okay, I'm out. I don't know what I did, but I'm out. Okay, usually escape or return will get you there. That often happens when you've got something like that extra palette that came up, the selection palette. As long as it stays up, you can only stay within that space, and you can't get out of it. Okay. Okay, so if I take this shape, oh, that's what I did. I think I selected a color. And I come here with my pen tool to allow me to draw a shape. Well, first of all, I have this set on path, so it's only allowing me to draw the path around it, but then I can use that path to do what I want. So I will quickly draw the shape around his face. Let's say that this is what I want. I'm wanting a simplified version of the face. And learning to draw with the pen tool is a skill in and of itself. We can do a separate class just on that. It's got its own world of tools and tricks and tips. Learning how to use these, what I call steering wheels. I'm not sure what they're actually called. But they guide the, oops. Let's take just one more second here. Once I've got the path the way that I want it to be, then I can come and I can say, oh, well, I want this path to be a solid color. And it'll take my color and provide that for me, and I can then click on that color and change it to be whatever it is that I want it to be. But that would be one way in a vector environment where you create that flat style that you're looking for with the pictures. And I can change the opacity with a keystroke just by what number I hit. If I hit 5, it's 50%. So that we can, if you want to do something stylized like that, it's got the capabilities to do that. Though I would typically do something like that in Illustrator. It'll give you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to the pictures themselves. So, okay? All right, as we make our way down, the crop tool is exactly what you might think it is. It just allows me to crop the picture, but the entire picture the way that I want. There is, I don't want to get into it yet, there is a powerful way to expand, and it uses AI. If you've got a picture of someone to be to the waist, AI can help you build out the rest of their body. It's quite powerful, but we're going to be doing that in the next course. Okay, so we'll get to that then. And then as we make our way down, some of these aren't as important at this stage. I would say the eyedropper tool is very important. Sometimes you need to know what your color is. This will take you around and allow you to either copy a color and to share it, or just know a color. When you're building websites, you do want to keep a consistent color scheme, right? And by using the eyedropper tool, I can click on a color, over here in my color palette, and I can find out what the hex code is. That's the code you're going to want to use when you're building your WordPress site to keep all of the colors of your headers or images or backgrounds consistent in their colors. Okay. All right. The next tool is a powerful tool. Let me hide some of these layers. I'm going to go into the version of his picture. You see he's got freckles and he's got blemishes that you may want to play with, maybe in the eyes or on the skin. And there are what are called neural filters in Photoshop. This uses AI technology to try to anticipate what you're doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. My disclaimer about AI at this stage is that it's really fun, but it's not completely useful yet. Sometimes it causes more work for you than you would hope that it would. And so it's not always an efficient use of your time, but it is a party. It can do some really funny things and you can get a lot of hoots out of it. So if you're wanting to do some things with entertainment, definitely play into the AI stuff. It's a lot of fun. But if I use these tools, these are my healing tools. And there are a number of them. You have the spot healing brush tool, the remove tool, the healing brush tool, and the patch tool. And I'll just give you an idea. I'll just do the spot healing and the patch tool for the sake of today. Depending on your brush size, so you can see I can adjust my brushes using the brackets up there next to the P. The right bracket will make it bigger, the left bracket will make it smaller. That's enough. You can also right-click at any time, and you can adjust that this way, so that you can adjust it visually. And then if I draw over something, it just takes all of the neighboring pixels, it borrows from them, and it does a really good job of guessing what pixels you want. Now, the bigger my brush is, the more information it's working with, and the less good, the worse it does of trying to anticipate what you want. However, let's try a big brush tool and try this section here. Now you saw I got rid of some needed depth on his nose, right? It still used kind of the same skin tones, but it has a harder time working with it. So I would say start small and work bigger from there when you're using the healing brush tool. If you need to clean up something like this, it's a great tool for that kind of thing.
Is that what you use for like red eye?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use it for red eye. There are some. One of the things about Photoshop is it doesn't have too many automated tools, but I believe the Photoshop Elements actually has a red eye feature that will it'll focus in on the eyes and try to take that out. Sometimes, depending on how bad the red eye is, I find it easier to find a version and I take it and I copy it, put it right over the top of the other eye, right? Just the pupil, because that doesn't change a lot. And all right, with the patch tool, it's very similar. What we would do is we would use either our circle, or we'll use the circle today. We'll take a whole section of this and we'll say, I really want to borrow the texture of, the patch tool, the texture of his shirt. And it's going to borrow the texture, but try to apply it to the colors that are surrounding it, right? So it has some uses, mostly in textiles, not so much on skin. The healing brush does a better job on skin, though it does have a use in skin. It doesn't always do a good job of, if I come up here, you'll see that the dark spots on his cheek, that they're going to find their way down here. It's going to stay to the color of the area where I'm at, but it's going to apply the visual textures of the spot that I took from, which if you're trying to replicate wrinkles or things like that, then it's great. If you're trying to get rid of wrinkles, then you're going to want to use the brush tool. So the brush tool, going back to it, the spot healing brush tool, sorry, you would take something, draw over this wrinkle, and voila, it just takes it right away. So there's ways like this to clean it up, but I will say that it looks unnatural if you go too far. Wrinkles are a part of life, and sometimes if you take an 80-year-old and you take out all of his wrinkles, you say, where's his wrinkles? Why? I mean, he's an 80-year-old, right? So anyway, just try not to go too far in something like that. All right. The brush tool. Now the brush tool has to do with, I use the brush tool primarily with my masking, so for example, you can see here that some of his hair didn't come, that it didn't grab it correctly. The way that I would use the brush tool the most, it's just a solid color and it's just brushing it on, and you can choose how thickly you want to brush it on. But I would take that brush tool, I would make, okay, on the brush tool, whatever the top color is, it's the opposite of the eraser tool, whatever the top color is, that's what it's going to brush on. So down here in this color palette, right now it's going to brush black, which I don't want to brush black because black erases, right? And if I come over here and I brush black, then I erase the things that I'm trying to reveal, right? However, if I flip that, which is Command or Control X, you'll see how oops, I'm sorry, it doesn't require the Command or Control, it's just X. You see how X just toggles between those two colors? I can really make those whatever colors I want, but if white is on top, then when I start brushing this in, and it looks like I don't have full opacity right now. Yeah, my flow is 38%. Let's just jack that up. All right, so you can see here that now it's just brushing in all those parts that the smart selection didn't quite grasp, right? And down here on this part, he's got some. So I might, if I'm using the smart selection tool, I'll come back in and I'll clean up the parts that it didn't do a good job on with my brush tool. Again, black conceals, white reveals. Okay. All right, as we make our way down, there are several, there's a mixer brush tool, which I use when I paint. So you can see here you have different brush settings that you can use, and this will draw from existing color here. Oops, not that one. But I mean, just like you're painting, it'll take the color you've got, which is my blue. I'm gonna make this a similar color to my color palette here. It will mix these two together and allow me to actually paint digitally over the top of a picture. So if you want to get into digital painting, you can use this picture for the base, but then you can, it still requires you to paint every pixel, and you have to make decisions regarding wrinkles and things like that, hairstyle, oops. So in this case, I'm going to use a different tool, but I can use these colors, you can see here, to paint with. It just basically liquefies that color and allows you to brush it however you want. But using this technique, I've been able to do some really fun pictures. I just recently did some of my kids. Here's my son. Just finished a picture of him, but basically using that tool, you can kind of perfect it and make a fun little painting out of it. Takes a lot of time, but it's a lot of fun. For me, it's a de-stressor. So that's where I would use that mixer brush. It grabs from all the layers below it that it's visually seeing, and it uses that as the paint that it's smearing around. Right? That's what the mixer brush does. Okay.